ever been a child in this room? Could you please raise up your hands? Oh, seems everybody. Who has ever been in any kind of relationship in this room? Great. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. What's happening in the brain of this girl, of this child? She's playing with her mother, but she's learning something about herself and about the other person. She's learning about relationship. What does it mean? Social relationships, they present the fabric of our life. That's almost all we do. Professor Waldinger from Harvard Medical School studies happiness. And he found out with his colleagues that when we have good relationships, we actually live longer. We have better health. And our life makes more sense. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar and his colleagues study relationships from that point of view. And they found out that we actually have a lot of people we know, typically 1,500. But then there are circles. And among all people we know, we have tiny circle, just 2 to 5 people who are really close to us, who are meaningful to us. And these very close relationships typically involve parents and children, and also partners and best friends. So it's fantastic, it's very interesting to study human relationships. I am the director of Natama Institute, and there we help people who had hardships in their childhood. Some of them maybe didn't even have parents, and later they suffer. They suffer from loneliness and painful isolation. I also study these themes at the first faculty of medicine, and as a Fulbright scholar, I was invited to Columbia University in New York when we were looking at what happens in childhood and how actually it appears when we are adults. In all those years, I have been asking 2 big questions. When and how do we learn to form social relationships, and especially the close ones? So today, I'm going to take you on a tour. We will be looking a little bit on childhood, and then in adulthood, and we will also talk about memory, how it all glues together. Well, all scientists agree that we are born with some kind of genetical program, with propensity to be social. But there's a lot we have to learn. Because as babies, we actually are born helpless, totally dependent on someone who's going to take care of us. And that person is primary caregiver. It's a kind of cold name, isn't it? I actually don't like it. But what it means is it's typically the mother. It can be the father, grandmother, in some instances, maybe adoptive mother. But it's the person who spends the most time with the baby. And it's very important because what do they do together? They spend huge time together. And they exchange a lot of information. Of course, you need to change diapers, you know that. But babies and infants are extremely motivated to start social interactions, to learn who is out there in this world. So, primary caregivers and babies spend a lot of time together physically. They do a lot of touch and eye contact. They exchange emotions. And over again, through repetition and repetition, and repetition, the baby starts realizing something extremely important. There is a person who I actually know. It's not a stranger. I know this person because that person comes back. And they start developing a sense of connection and companionship. All of a sudden, the baby is not alone in this big, confusing universe and world. And we have interesting studies about this. For example, Professor Imafuku from the Keio University in Tokyo and his colleagues did a neuroimaging study about this. And what did they do? They measured how dorsal medial prefrontal cortex, that's part here of our brain, it's responsible for a lot of social activities, how this part of the brain responded to mother's voice when she called the name of 6-month-old baby. So the mother called the name, and then you had a stranger call the name. And at 6 months, already, that part of the brain responded much stronger to the mother than to the person the baby didn't know. So, I'm gonna move us to the adulthood. Let's think about us. We are all adults here. How do our close relationship look? You may consider that we actually like seeing our close people fairly often. If you think about it, we actually want to be in touch all the time. We love social media and cell phones because we can connect. But with the closest people, we also share ourselves. We share with them who we really are. And that's an amazing thing. I have someone I can be me, and I can know the other person. It's amazing. And that's what we do with our closest people. And we know them, and they are not interchangeable. You can't take your best friend and just put someone else, right? So that's amazing. And again, do we have studies? Do we have studies that support it? Professor Demir from the University of Detroit and his colleagues studied it. And I really like that study because they were thinking, we want to know exactly what it is, what makes the best friends the best friends. If we had more time, I would let you guess. So they did the study, and what did they find? They found that it is a sense of companionship. Think about it for a second. Maybe think about someone who is close to you. Companionship is something that I am not alone in this universe, in this world. There's someone on my side. So if you think about it, I'm going to make a comparison. A little bit of what we learned about childhood, how we learn being close to someone, and how it feels, what it does when we are adults. And you may realize that it somehow matches, little overlaps, right? Being close to someone and sharing emotions, and know that person comes back, and I want this person to be in my life as a company, seems to be similar. Just like this picture. Don't you think it's an amazing picture? It's just a great picture. I think it illustrates it great. But now, a big question, which a lot of scientists ask. Is there any relationship between how and what we learn as children, especially being social, being in relationships with people, and how we do when we are adults? How the early social experiences influence the way we relate to the others later in life? Well, now it comes to memory. Because learning means we encode information, it's saved, it's linked with other information, and retrieved. And our memory is an amazing, huge system. We often think about our memory like, oh, I can't remember the number or something. It's just a part of it. Our memory has got sections, and they learn and manage different pieces of information, and they put them together. And scientists, step by step, discover how it all works. It's a long trip ahead of us, and also develops. So, there's so many questions, and one of the mysteries is that when we are aged 0 to 4, we learn a lot. But later as adults, you won't be really able to recall the events and situations. And we yet don't know how come. So it's such a big topic, it's so complex, that today I am going to focus on just one little piece, one aspect, like this tiny piece of mosaic. And that is a special way of how we organize our knowledge. It's called memory schema. Sorry for this technical vocabulary. I know it all sounds terrible, but I'm going to explain what it is. When we repeatedly experience some events or situations, like maybe if you have been to TEDx evening many times, our brain starts picking up the patterns, the repetitive patterns, and creates a little frame for it, for better understanding. Kind of template. And it's very useful because next time you kind of know, how it's gonna be, and you can learn more. So again, there is a lot of studies that are trying to look how it really works. And researcher Farzen Farr from the University in Toronto and her team, for instance, were thinking, maybe we create spatial type of memory schemas. When you drive through some places like Modern City, Modern City, we all know. You all probably do have a template and memory schema for it. Because right away, you started thinking, there's tall buildings, and there's a lot of highways. It's hard to shop. It's difficult to live there, And that's a memory schema for Modern City. And then we kind of quickly know what it is and what it isn't. So just an example, right? But how might memory schemas be important for social development? Do we also use those templates for being social? I'm going to share with you a kind of novel idea or direction in thinking. You probably remember what we talked about in childhood. There's a lot of repetition. Young children, infants, older children with primary caregivers, repetition, being close, sharing, talking to each other, knowing each other well. And that way we developed our first close relationship in our life. But I believe, and that's just as I say, direction to think, that maybe our brain also distilled these repetitions, being close, person comes back, stays in my life, and create a memory schema for a close relationship. And it's useful for a navigation through this complex social life, because through this schema we would know how it feels, what it is and what it isn't, and how we see people, who we let closer, who we want. So that would be a very important knowledge if close relationships are the most important ones we have. Eric Kandel, who actually got Nobel Prize for discovering neurobiology of long-term memory, said, we rely on our memory for thinking, for learning, for making decisions, and also for interacting with other people. So I really deeply believe if we know more how it works, we will understand better and appreciate what an amazing job parents do with their children. How they strongly influence the way their children are going to live, think, feel, have relationships. It's kind of, it's very important to know more. And if we do, we may also be able to use it creatively and find new ways and help people who are isolated, who are painfully lonely. So, our relationships are fantastic, and learning about them is fantastic because it is about us. Thank you.